Symbols. We're all familiar with them. There are shortcuts to vital information. That's why, to familiarize you with the movie rating symbols which will be used by this theater, we present the following guide for parents and young people. It is designed to inform parents about the suitability of movie content for viewing by their children. G, all ages admitted, general audiences. GP, all ages admitted, parental guidance suggested. R, restricted, under 17 requires accompanying parent or adult guardian. X, no one under 17 admitted.
Hello, Santa Maria! What's up? Your pal Edgar Von Gould out of the drive-in and into the streets of the city of Santa Maria. For the first of maybe could be many, if this goes well, adventures into this beautiful city I love and I live in, called Santa Maria, California. Here at the Santa Maria Cemetery, where people are just dying to get in. You know, they just... Alright, tonight's movie is, because of the location, I decided to pick the movie that would fit perfectly anybody who's hanging out at the cemetery to watch, which is Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 George Romero classic, written by John Russo, starring a bunch of people who did things. The classic horror film is the one that started the whole zombie genre, started the whole like bleak, depressing kind of horror film. Before that, horror movies had like a happy ending, and you know, it was like Psycho and Carnival of Souls and Night of the Living Dead that really kind of took the 60s and made it more adult. So with that, let's go walk around. Look at this beautiful place. I mean, this is beautiful. It's a beautiful day, the sun is shining. I have some bad news though. If you're a horror fan, you may not have heard that John Carl Beaker died yesterday of cancer. It's pretty sad. He was one of my heroes. He was the director of Friday the 13th Part 7. He also directed Troll and Ghoulies 3, Ghoulies Go to College. He directed all those movies. He did makeup effects for Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street. And he designed the ultimate Jason. He's the one that discovered Kane Hodder as Jason. You get to see Kane Hodder as Jason in parts 7, 8, 9, and 10, which is really cool. So, it's kind of sad. It's a moment of silence. Anyway, let's get back to the movie. That was a long moment. That was a short moment. I'm sorry. Anyway, so the movie tonight is Night of the Living Dead. If you've probably seen it on his channel before, you've probably seen it a million times, but still, it's fun to watch. It's a great movie. You can riff it. You can make fun of it and all that stuff. So anyway, let's get started. Steven, you ready? We're ready? Let's roll. I'll be back soon with some more little stuff. Auf Wiedersehen.
They ought to make the day the time changes, the first day of summer.
What?
Well, it's 8 o'clock and it's still light.
A lot of good the extra daylight does us. Now, we've still got a 3-hour drive back. We're not going to be home until after midnight.
Well, if it really bugged you, Johnny, you wouldn't do it.
You think I want to blow Sunday on a scene like this? You know, I figure we're either going to have to move Mother out here or move the grave into Pittsburgh.
She can't make a trip like this.
Oh, I don't know that she can. Is there any of that candy left?
No.
Look at this thing. We still remember. I don't. You know, I don't even remember what the man looks like.
Johnny, it takes you 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes to put the wreath on the grave and 6 hours to drive back and forth. Mother wants to remember, so we trot 200 miles into the country and she stays at home.
Well, we're here, John, all right?
Test. We're back on? Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming back on the air after an interruption due to technical problem.
Nothing wrong with the radio. Must have been the station.
Which row is it in?
Well, there's no one around.
Well, it's late. If you'd gotten up earlier.
Oh, look, I already lost an hour's sleep on the time change.
I think you complain just to hear yourself talk. There it is.
I wonder what happened to the one from last year. Each year we spend good money on these things. We come out here and the one from last year's gone.
Well, the flowers die, and the caretaker or somebody takes them away.
Yeah, a little spit and polish. You can clean this up. Sell it next year. Wonder how many times we bought the same one. Hey, come on, Barb. Church was this morning, huh? Hey, I mean praying's for church, huh? Come on.
I haven't seen you in church lately.
Well, there's not much sense in my going to church. Do you remember one time when we were small, we were out here? It was from right over there. I jumped out at you from behind the tree, and Grandpa got all excited, and he shook his fist at me, and he said, "Boys, you'll be damned to hell." Remember that? Right over there. Well, you used to really be scared here.
Johnny,
You're still afraid.
stop it now. I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
He'll hear you.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
Johnny. Oh! No! No! Johnny! Help me!
Don't worry about him. I can handle him. Probably be a lot more of them as soon as they find out about us. The truck is out of gas. This pump out here is locked. Is there a key? We can try to get out of here if we can get some gas. Is there a key? I suppose you've tried this. Do you live here? Jesus. We've got to get out of here. We have to get to where there's some other people. Maybe we better take some food. I'll see if I can find some food.
What's happening?
Oh, you think it's happening?
What's happening?
Two of them. There are two of them out there. Have you seen any more around here? I can take care of those two.
I don't
I know you're afraid, but we have
I
to...
don't know! I don't know! What's happening?
I know we're in here now.
Don't look at it.
So in 1968, the movie was released, and it became a drive-in staple. The problem was they didn't have a copyright on it, so everybody started to steal it, and everybody was releasing the same movie. So George Romero and John Russo had to go, and Richard Rubinstein had to go and try to secure rights again. That's why they made the one in 1990, the remakes, directed by Tom Savini. Oh, that's beautiful. The original title of the movie was The Night of Anubis. George Romero decided on that title, but then the executives said, no, I don't like that one. Let's do something a little bit more straightforward. Because the idea was the Egyptian god Anubis came back, returned and started bringing the dead out back to life as zombies. But they never used the word zombie, they called them ghouls. So it's kind of weird. So the term zombie came much later, during the release of George Romero's second film in the Dead series, Dawn of the Dead, which was then redone in Europe by Dario Argento as Zombie. And then Lucio Fulci, a couple years later, produced Zombie Flesh Eaters, which was a sequel to Zombie, which was the Italian version of Dawn of the Dead. So then you have Zombie Flesh Eaters 3, which is actually the third installment in the Dead series. It gets a little muddy and a little confused about that point. But basically the point was, these movies are re-released under different titles all the time. This happens a lot. It happened a lot in the 80s, 70s and 80s with movies that were like re-released in other countries. They would give them great titles like Don't Go in the Woods, Don't Look in the Basement. So they re-release these movies under different titles all the time. We got like Don't Look in the Basement, Don't Go in the Attic, and all these different movies. It's cool. It was like the Wild West when it came to horror films in the 80s, 70s and 80s with the drive-in circuit. It was like they would give movies a different title all the time, and they release it in a different city under a different title, and it was hard to keep track. But back then there wasn't IMDb, there wasn't all this stuff where you could keep track of all these things. So they were talking about the city of Santa Maria. This is a beautiful city. I love it here. I'm so glad I moved here from Austria, and I decided to set up shop here, open up my drive-in, and bring you guys all these great movies every week. I just love this cemetery. I think this is a great place. There's a lot of touristy type things here in this town. Lots of nice people. I love everybody here in Santa Maria. Now this is so cool. I love Egyptian obelisks and the Freemason imagery is so cool. Oh, it's so awesome. So, what is it? So, Night of the Living Dead gave birth to the zombie craze. Before that, zombies were mostly like these like voodoo type things, and the concept of a dead body coming back and eating people was never really around then. It just kind of came out from Night of the Living Dead, and the minds of those geniuses over there in Pennsylvania who did this movie with only like $100,000 and just the blood, sweat, and tears that they had out, and they just, out of love for this movie, they made this fucking movie, and it's so beautiful. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just beautiful to me. There's another one over here. Don't try not to step on any body. Oh, cool. So young Tom Savini was in high school, and he was going off to Vietnam to be a war photographer, and he was offered a job with Night of the Living Dead, but he had to turn it down because he was sent to Vietnam. But when he got back, he hooked up with George Romero again, and the two collaborated, and they made Dawn of the Dead, which was filmed also in Pittsburgh. All the movies were filmed in Pittsburgh because he just loved that town, hometown vibe. You know, you gotta love where you grew up. So that was pretty cool. I mean, I think it's cool. Some we call it nepotism. I don't call it nepotism. I call it being true to your roots. So what's next? Oh yeah, not scripted. I just pulled the stuff out of my ass. I was talking about Night of the Living Dead. I love that movie, and I'm so glad you guys are watching it with me. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I think it's like the 60s is pretty much the rebirth of the horror genre with Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and Peeping Tom and Carnival of Souls and Night of the Living Dead. There's like a different vibe in horror than there was before. Before it was like everything had to have a happy ending, everybody was all okay, the monster was defeated, blah 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 blah, the end of the thing, and then everybody hugs and kisses and that's it. Not to hear what they say, mother.
This thing is just backing away from it. I looked back at the diner to see if there was anyone there who could help me. It was when I noticed that the entire place had been encircled. There wasn't a sign of life left except by now there were no more screams. I realized that I was alone with 50 or 60 of those things, just standing there, staring at me. I started to drive. I just plowed right through them. They didn't move, they didn't run or just stood there, staring at me. Just wanted to crush them. They scattered through the air like bugs.
We were riding in the cemetery, Johnny and me. Johnny. We came to put a wreath on my father's grave. Johnny, and he said, "Can I have some candy, Barbara?" We didn't have any. And, oh, it's hot in here. Hot. And he said, "Oh, it's late. Why did we start so late?" And I said, "Johnny, if you'd gotten up earlier, we wouldn't be late." Johnny asked me if I were afraid. And I said, "I'm not afraid, Johnny." And then this man started walking up the road. He came slowly, and Johnny kept teasing me and saying, "He's coming to get you, Barbara." And I laughed at him and said, "Johnny, stop it." And then Johnny ran away. And I went up to this man, and I was going to apologize.
Why don't you just keep calm?
And I looked up, and I said, "Goody." And he grabbed me. He grabbed me, and he ripped at me. He held me, and he ripped at my clothes.
I think you should just calm down.
Oh, I screamed, "Johnny! Johnny, help me! Oh, help me!" And he wouldn't let me go. He ripped. And then Johnny came and he ran and he fought this man. And I got so afraid. I ran. And Johnny didn't come. We have to wait for Johnny. Maybe we better go out and get him. We have to go out and get Johnny. He's out there. Please, don't you hear me? We've got to go out and get him. Please! We have got to go get Johnny! Please help me! Please!
Don't you know what's going on out there? This is no Sunday school picnic.
Don't you understand? My brother is alone!
Your brother is dead.
No! My brother is not dead! Oh! Oh!
Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments. At this hour, we repeat, these are the facts as we know them. There is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. The murders are taking place in villages, cities, rural homes, and suburbs with no apparent pattern or reason for the slayings. It seems to be a sudden, general explosion of mass homicide. We have some descriptions of the assassins. Eyewitnesses say they are ordinary-looking people. Some say they appear to be in a kind of trance. Others describe them as being So, at this point, there is no really authentic way for us to say who or what to look for and guard yourself against. Misshapen monsters. Reaction of law enforcement officials is one of complete bewilderment at this hour. So far, we have been unable to determine that any kind of organized investigation is yet underway. Police, sheriff deputies, and emergency ambulances are literally deluged with calls for help. The scene can best be described as mayhem. Mayors of Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and Miami, along with the governors of several eastern and midwestern states, have indicated the National Guard may be mobilized at any moment, but that has not happened as yet. The only advice our reporters have been able to get from official sources is for private citizens to stay in their homes behind locked doors. Do not venture outside for any reason until the nature of this crisis has been determined and until we can advise what course of action to take. Keep listening to radio and TV for any special instructions as this crisis develops further. Thousands of office and factory workers are being urged to stay at their places of employment, not to make any attempt to get to their homes. However, in spite of this urging and warning, streets and highways are packed with frantic people trying to reach their families or apparently to flee just anywhere. We repeat, the safest course of action at this time is simply to stay where you Ladies and gentlemen, we've just received word that the president has called a meeting of his cabinet to deal with the sudden epidemic of murder which has seized the eastern third of this nation. The meeting is scheduled to convene within the hour. Members of the presidential cabinet will be joined by officials of the FBI and joint meetings behind closed doors. The White House spokesman, in announcing this conference, says there will be an official announcement as soon as possible following that meeting. This is the latest dispatch just received in our newsroom. Latest word also from National Press Services in Washington, D.C. now tells us that the emergency presidential conference, which we've just mentioned, will include high-ranking scientists from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. That's the extent of this latest bulletin. Repeating, members of this cabinet, the FBI, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and scientists from NASA within the hour. All radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country, including the one to which you're listening, have joined their facilities in an emergency network to bring you this news as it develops. We urge you to stay tuned to radio and TV and to stay indoors at all costs. Late reports reaching this newsroom tell of frightened people seeking refuge in churches, schools, and government buildings, demanding shelter and protection from the wholesale murder which apparently is engulfing much of the nation. Law enforcement officials are at a loss to explain or, even at this hour, even to theorize about the reasons for this wave of murder. So far, the advice they're able to give the public is something like Chief T.K. Dunmore of Camden, North Carolina, is quoted as saying, quote, "Tell the people, for God's sake, to get off the streets. Tell them to go home and lock their doors and windows up tight. We don't know what kind of murder-happy characters we have here." End quote. This is Chief Dunmore of Camden, North Carolina. So far, the only descriptions, the only clues anyone has of the killers come from frightened witnesses of some of the slayings. These eyewitness accounts variously describe the murderers as ordinary-looking people, misshapen monsters, people who look like they're in a trance, and things that look like people but act like animals. Some eyewitnesses tell of seeing victims who look as though they had been torn apart. This whole ghastly story began developing 2 days ago with the report of the slaying of a family of 7 in their rural home near Gulfport, Virginia. Since then, reports of such senseless killings began snowballing in a reign of terror which has hopscotched in an erratic, disconnected manner throughout much of the eastern and midwestern United States. Efforts to keep track of the murder reports by the placing of markers on a map seem to indicate a general spreading from the extreme southeastern United States to the north and west. Our newsmen have been on the telephone talking with officials in other cities and have determined that none of this kind of mass murder has yet been reported west of the Mississippi River, except in the extreme southeastern portion of Texas. Similar killings have been reported around the Houston and Galveston, but nothing like
I found a gun and some bullets out there.
It was only late yesterday
Oh, and
when it
these.
first became clear we were facing some kind of national emergency. When first reports began filtering in, newsmen and law enforcement agencies were of the opinion
This
that
place is
things
boarded up pretty solid now.
in nature. However, as these
We ought to be all right here for a while.
dramatically, it was soon apparent
We have
this
the
was
gun
something
and
more than the
bullets.
usual run of lawlessness.
Food and the
Some
radio.
officials began to suspect an obscure kind of conspiracy.
Sooner or later, someone's
Things as
bound to come and get us out.
creatures from outer space. So again, we join with law enforcement agencies, urging you to seek shelter in a building. Lock the doors and windows securely.
Hey, that's us. We're doing all right.
Precautions of any suspicious strangers. And keep tuned to your radio and television for survival instructions and further details of this continuing story.
Look, I don't know if you're hearing me,
Goes on in the absence of any law.
but I'm going upstairs now.
It's almost as though some critical balance of
If anything should try to break in here, I can hear it from up there. I'll be down to take care of it.
savage killers. We repeat, this radio station.
Everything is all right for now. I'll be back to reinforce the windows and doors later. But you'll be all right for now, okay? Okay.
Dateline on this report is Cumberland, Maryland. Civil defense officials in Cumberland have told newsmen that murder victims show evidence of having been partially devoured by their murderers.
Alright, so like I was saying, I'm not a purist. I think remakes are cool if they're done right. If it's the right director, it's the right writer, the right people involved, and they decide to do a good version, then I'm all for it. I'm all for a remake. But if it's just a cash grab, and a studio's like, hey, well, that's what bugs me about the horror genre, is the fact that a lot of people look at it as a cash cow. They're like, oh, people will watch it, it's guaranteed money maker. You know, Phantasm is a good example of that. It's like they just...
Yeah, like chick flicks.
Yep. The problem, Phantasm, I think Phantasm was a great series, but the problem I had with it was Dan Castaneda, the guy who wrote and directed all of them, he couldn't get a job doing anything else. So he just kept making Phantasm movies. And it's kind of sad. It's like he wants to do other stuff, but they're like, yeah, I don't want you to do that. I don't like that. But you could do a Phantasm 5. Jesus Christ. On a cracker. But that's what they do. Is like people want the same thing over and over again, but then they see something different. They're like, oh, I love that. And then the purists are like, oh, I hate that. It's not like it used to be. Well, things change. People grow up. You're not 19 anymore.
It's on. It's on. There's no sound. Play with the rabbit ears.
Reports, incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria. What do they think? We're imagining all this? Shut up!
In all parts of the country. The wave of murder which is sweeping the eastern third of the nation is being committed by creatures who feast upon the flesh of their victims. First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen at first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, the reports persisted. Medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured. I think we have some late word just arriving, and I'll interrupt to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims. It's hard for us here to believe what we're reporting to you, but it does seem to be a fact. When this emergency first began, radio and television was advising people to stay inside, behind locked doors for safety. Well, that situation has now changed, and we're able to report a definite course of action for you. Civil defense machinery has been organized to provide rescue stations with food, shelter, medical treatment, and protection by armed National Guardsmen. Stay tuned to the broadcasting stations in your local area for this list of rescue stations. This list will be repeated throughout our news coverage. Look for the name of the rescue station nearest you and make your way to that location as soon as possible.
So we have that truck. If we can get some gas, we can get out of here.
There's a pump out by the shed.
I know, that's why I pulled in here, but it's locked.
Emergency meeting called this afternoon by the President. Since convening this conference of the Presidential Cabinet, the FBI, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the CIA has not produced any public information. Why are space experts being consulted about an Earth-bound emergency? So far, all the betting on the answer to that question centers on the recent Explorer satellite shot to Venus. That satellite, you'll recall, started back to Earth, but never got here. That's the space vehicle which orbited Venus and then was purposely destroyed by NASA when scientists discovered it was carrying a mysterious high-level radiation with it. Could that radiation be somehow responsible for the wholesale murders we're now suffering? Newsman Don Quinn in Washington has posed those questions.
It's obvious our best move is to try to get out of here.
How are you going to get over to that pump? Look.
You're coming from a meeting regarding the explosion of the Venus probe, is that right?
Yes, that was the subject of the meeting.
You feel there is a connection between this and the phenomenon?
There's a definite connection. A definite connection.
In other words, you feel that the radiation on the Venus probe is enough to cause these mutations?
There was a very high degree of radiation.
Well, just a minute. I'm not sure that that's certain at all. I don't think that has been irrefutably
that we have at this time.
In other words, it is the military's viewpoint that the radiation is not the cause of the mutation.
I can't speak for the entire military at this time, gentlemen.
This seems to
I must disagree with these gentlemen presently until this is irrefutably proved.
Everything is being done that can be done.
We'll have to hurry for our next meeting.
Professor, you feel that there is a definite connection between
Definite connection as far as Dr. Keller and myself.
Doctor, please. I thought we decided that is not proved yet.
Was the satellite when the satellite was exploded?
An unusual amount of radiation, enough to cause mutation under certain circumstances.
Could have happened.
Have a bearing on it.
It does seem to have a bearing.
Will there be a reply for the
Later?
Yes.
There will be a reply.
Yes.
Later this afternoon. There will be a report this afternoon.
So perhaps there will be a report,
yes.
a more
Later.
full report. Will you close the window?
We are doing everything possible to solve the problem.
Some further explanation of this.
We've heard all we need to know. We have to try to get out of here.
He said the rescue stations have doctors and medical supplies. If we could get care in there, we could get help for her.
No, it's one of the world's foremost authorities on space science and technology.
Willard. I saw a sign that said Willard.
Any moment.
It's only about 17 miles from here.
You know this area. You from around here?
Judy and I are both from around here. We were on our way up to the lake to go swimming. And Judy had a radio, and we heard the first reports about this. So we knew the old house was here, and we came in and found the lady upstairs dead. Then these other people came. We went down into the basement and put a bar across the door, and it is pretty strong. How could we possibly get away from here? We've got a sick child, 2 women, 1 woman out of her head, 3 men, and the place is surrounded with these things.
Meal for NASA. Dr. Grimes, your entire staff, I know, has been working very hard to find some solution to these things that are happening. Do you have any answers at this time?
Yes, we have some answers. But first, let me stress the importance of seeking medical attention for anyone who's been injured in any way. We don't know yet what complications might result from such injuries.
How bad has your kid been hurt?
Good advice, Doctor. Now, how about the basic problem? Well,
Look, you go down there and tell, Judy? Yeah, you tell Judy to come up here and you stay with the kid, all right?
Direct action taken with regard to the Venus probe. In the cold room at the university, we had a cadaver from which all 4 limbs had been amputated. Sometime early this morning, it opened its eyes and began to move its trunk. It was dead, but it opened its eyes and tried to move.
They want you upstairs. Did she ask for me?
She hasn't done anything.
I don't understand. Baby. It's Mommy.
I heard. I'll come back down as soon as I find out what they want.
Thank you, Judy.
The body should be disposed of at once, preferably by cremation.
Well, how long after death, then, does the body become reactivated?
It's only a matter of minutes.
Minutes? Well, that doesn't give people time to make any arrangements.
No, you're right. It doesn't give them time to make funeral arrangements. The bodies must be carried to the street and burned. They must be burned immediately. Soak them with gasoline and burn them. The bereaved will have to forego the dubious comforts that a funeral service will give. They're just dead flesh and dangerous.
I see.
Judy, I need you to find some bedspreads or sheets to tear up into small strips, okay? Is there a fruit cellar here?
Yes.
We need some bottles or jars. Make Molotov cocktails and hold them up while we try to escape.
Hey, there's a big can of kerosene down there.
I'll see what I can find.
I'll look for the bottles.
There's a big key ring down there. There may be a key to the gas pump on it.
I'll check.
We can toss the cocktails from a window upstairs. Meantime, a couple of us can go out and try to get the gas and come back for the rest of the people.
But that'll leave a door open someplace.
Yeah, that's right. It better be this door. It's closer to the truck. Before we go out, we'll put some supplies behind the cellar door. While we're gone, the rest of you can hold up in there.
I found some fruit jars in the cellar. And there's a key on here that's labeled for the gas pump out back.
I'm not really that used to the truck. I found it abandoned.
I can handle the truck, no sweat.
You're it, then. You and I'll go. We'll put whatever lumber we find behind the cellar door. You can go upstairs and toss the cocktails from a window. Tom, you and I will have to unboard this door. After you toss the cocktails, you hustle back down here and lock this door. It's no good to board it up because we'll have to get back in quickly. After we get the gas and get back into the house, then we'll worry about getting everybody into the truck. Now let's move it.
No place to flee for safety, except to the rescue stations which have been set up. Indications are that before this emergency is over, we will need many, many more such rescue stations.
You always have a smile for me. How can you smile like that all the time? How many do you have done? Come on, honey, we gotta move.
Tom, are you sure about the phone?
The phone is dead out. All you get is a recorded message.
If I could only call the folks. They're going to be so worried about us.
Everything will be all right. As soon as we get to Willard, we'll call them. They might even be there.
I know. Tom? Are you sure we're doing the right thing, Tom?
What, about getting out of here?
Yeah.
Well, the television said that's the right thing to do. We've got to get to a rescue station.
I don't know.
Come on, honey, you're starting to sound like Mr. Cooper now.
But why do you have to go out there?
Look, I know how to handle that truck, and I can handle the pump. Ben doesn't know anything about that stuff.
But we're safe in here.
For how long, honey? We're safe now. But there's going to be more and more of those things.
I know all that.
Hey, listen. Remember when we had the big flood? Remember how difficult it was for us to convince you that it was right to leave? Remember we had to go to Willard then? This isn't a passing thing, honey. It's not like just a wind passing through. We've got to do something, and fast.
I just don't want you to go out there, that's all.
Hey, Smiley. Where's that big smile for me? Boy, you're sure you won't use it all, are you? We've got work to do, honey. And you...
We better get her downstairs.
We have to go downstairs now, Barbara.
She's right. You have to go downstairs now, just for a little while, until we get back. Then we can all leave.
Oh, I'd like to leave. Yes.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Tommy, come on! Get in!
Key won't work.
Watch it. Watch the torch.
Gotta get away from the pump.
Come on, come on.
My jacket's gone.
I'm Edgar Von Ghoul. This is Dead in Drive-In, and today we're watching Night of the Living Dead. This was just a recreation of a famous scene from the movie. You've probably seen it a million times on other shows. They played a lot on, because Night of the Living Dead is public domain, so anybody can play it. Press all on Are You Afraid of the Dark or Tales from the Dark Side. Show us clips from it. I've been shown a lot. So anyway, that's the show. And what else do I say? I love all of you. Thank you so much for watching. Auf Wiedersehen.
Isn't it 3 o'clock yet? There's supposed to be another broadcast at 3 o'clock.
10 minutes.
Oh, only 10 more minutes? We don't have very long to wait. We can leave. Oh, we better leave soon. It's 10 minutes to 3.
You know anything about this area at all? I mean, is Willard the nearest town?
I don't know. We were just trying to get to a motel before dark.
You say those things turned your car over. You think we can get it back on its wheels and drive it? Where is it?
Seems like it was pretty far away. Seems like we ran.
Forget it. It's at least a mile.
Johnny has the keys.
You gonna carry that child a mile through that army of things out there?
I can carry the kid. What's wrong with her? How'd she get hurt?
One of those things grabbed her.
Bit her on the arm.
What's wrong?
Who knows what kind of disease those things carry? Is she conscious?
Barely.
She can't walk. She's too weak.
Well, one of us could try to get to the car.
You gonna turn it over by yourself?
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
You have a car? Where? Where is it?
You won't be able to start it.
Yeah, I know, but where is it? Good Lord.
Being monitored closely by scientists at all the radiation detection stations. At this hour, they report the level of the mysterious radiation continues to increase steadily. So long as this situation remains, government spokesmen warn that dead bodies will continue to be transformed into the flesh-eating ghouls. All persons who die during this crisis, from whatever cause, will come back to life to seek human victims unless their bodies are first disposed of by cremation. Our news cameras have just returned from covering such a search and destroy operation against the ghouls, this one conducted by Sheriff Conan McClellan in Butler County, Pennsylvania. So now let's go to that film report. All law enforcement agencies and the military have been organized to search out and destroy the marauding ghouls. The Survival Command Center at the Pentagon has disclosed that a ghoul can be killed by a shot in the head or a heavy blow to the skull. Officials are quoted as explaining that since the brain of a ghoul has been activated by the radiation, the plan is kill the brain and you kill the ghoul.
What do you think from the supply wagon, Gus?
No, we're all right. Hey, Cass, put that thing all the way in the fire. We don't want it getting up again. All right, I got you.
Chief McClellan, how's everything going?
Oh, things aren't going too bad. Men are taking it pretty good. You want to get on the other side of the road over there?
Chief, do you think we'll be able to defeat these things?
Well, we killed 19 of them today right in this area. Those last 3 we caught trying to claw their way into an abandoned shed. They must have thought somebody was in there. There wasn't, though. We heard them making all kind of noise. We came over and beat them off, blasted them down. As soon as you're finished, can I see you here? Yeah, okay.
Chief, if I were surrounded by 6 or 8 of these things, would I stand a chance with them?
Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot them in the head. That's a sure way to kill them. If you don't, get yourself a club or a torch. Beat them or burn them. They go up pretty easy.
Well, Chief McClellan, how long do you think it will take you until you get the situation under control?
Well, that's pretty hard to say. We don't know how many of them there are. We know when we find them, we can kill them.
Are they slow-moving, Chief?
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Well, in time, would you say you ought to be able to wrap this up in 24 hours?
Well, we don't really know. We know we'll be into it most of the night, probably into the early morning. We're working our way toward Willard, and we'll team up with the National Guard over there, and then we'll be able to give a more definite view.
Thank you very much, Chief McClellan. This is Bill Cardill, WIC TV 11 News.
Thank you, Bill, for that report. Official spokesman declined to speculate just how long it may take to kill off all the flesh eaters, so long as the heavy rain...
Is the fuse box in the cellar?
I don't know. It isn't the fuse. The power lines are down. Helen, I have to get that gun.
Haven't you had enough?
But 2 people are dead already on account of that guy. Take a look out that window, quick.
Hey, Vince, Al, you want to get about 4 or 5 men and a couple dogs? There's a house over here behind those trees. We want to go check it out. Right. You stay here, Bill.
Yeah, Chief, we're going to stay with it till we meet up with the National Guard.
Where'd you get the coffee?
One of the volunteers. You're doing all the work. You take it.
Thank you. We should be wrapped up here about 3 or 4 more hours. We'll probably get into Willard then. I guess you can go over there and meet the National Guard. Nick, you and the rest of these men want to come with me?
Tell Bill to check in the office, see what's happening.
All right, Steve. Tell them we're going to stay with it, and everything appears to be under control.
We go on the other side. Down there by the barn. Okay. Some of these guys can follow the wagon down. I only need a few men to check out the house. Somebody had a cookout here, Vince. Yeah, sure looks like it, Cal. He's the dead one. Get up here. Nick, Tony, Steve, you want to get out in that field and build me a bonfire? You, drag that out of here and throw it on the fire. Nothing down here? All right, go ahead down and give him a hand. Let's go check out the house, man. There's something there. I heard a noise. All right, Vince, hit him in the head, right between the eyes. Good shot. Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the fire.
Come directly on over.
More torches. Keep those dogs back off of those things.
Go more quickly.
Well, that's the end of Night of the Living Dead. Bleak, depressing ending where nobody made it out alive except for an angry mob of drunk rednecks. They're dead. They all messed up. Put another on the file. Kind of sad, but in a way, that's the bleak, depressing ending is really what made this movie so unique at the time period it came out in. Was like I was saying before, like most movies back then, they had a happy ending. Everything was like wrapped up in a neat little bow at the end of the movie, and all the heroes made it out alive and they succeeded. You know, then you watch stuff like Friday the 13th, which came out maybe about 20 years later, and it pretty much had the same kind of impact where like all the police are here, everything's okay, and all of a sudden Jason, boom, out of all the water and grabs her. You know, that's what I'm saying, is like these kind of endings are what made these movies so cool, was because it was different. And when it's different, it's unique, most people latch onto it. Just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hills Have Eyes, Last House on the Left. You know, that's why these movies are talked about 40 years later. Halloween, Friday the 13th, because they had something cool to add to the genre that wasn't there before. Then you have the cheap imitators, things like Sleepaway Camp, which is still good. I love the Sleepaway Camp, but not just Sleepaway Camp. Sleepaway Camp is a good one. Another example would probably be something like Slaughter High, or these knockoffs where they just kill people in fucked up ways and that's it. Terror Train's another example of that. I mean, they're different, but you can tell that they're just trying to do the same thing as everyone else does. They're like watching a movie like, hey, Halloween's really cool, let's do the exact same thing, but a little bit different, and let's keep this on going. Which is cool. And nowadays they're redoing that, they're rehashing all the stuff. And a lot of purists are like, no, they shouldn't remake these movies. There are remakes already. I mean, that's my problem with it, is like everything's a remake of something. So why are you bitching because they're remaking something like that's 30 years ago? That's what Hollywood does. On that note, I'm so glad you guys stayed to watch this movie with me. I feel so loved and appreciated here on Santa Maria, that people actually enjoy my show. And like, if you want to find out more, just email or go on facebook.com/DatingDrive-In-TV. You can get in contact with me there. I have a YouTube channel called Stainless Wings Productions. Just type in Stainless Wings Productions on YouTube and you should see a picture of me with a bunch of videos, the things I've done, like Nightmare Fuel, music, and episodes of this show. And I want to say thank you to everybody who watches, especially my friends over at The Vortex, Struggle, and Crimson Executioner, Sparkly Death, all these people, Scarlet, all of you people, I love you all. Thank you so much for being part of this whole horror host movement. And then I want to say goodnight. I'll be back next time with another great movie and lots of great fun. Auf Wiedersehen.